Toolbox Tuesday. Thank you for having me, guys. Well, today's agenda might not be quite as thrilling as the denim fashion shows and stacking the chairs that I see that you guys have been up to. I just want to assure you that it will be just as engaging. PayVault has recently been updated with several new features that are designed to better meet a wider range of merchants. Additionally, we have some more updates on the way that I'm excited to share a sneak peek into. And along with the review of the existing features that merchants already appreciate within the gateway. So I am going to go ahead and begin with just a refresher, kind of a behind the scenes, some items that are available in the back office to set up. PayVault can process level 3 with all transactions, and it applies to transactions that are applicable for that. So whether that be government, corporate, business cards, and that feature really allows big savings, especially with B2B merchants, of an average of up to 1.25% of business and corporate interchange rates. That configuration is a simple step within the reseller portal that allows merchants to save without even lifting a finger. And in addition to interchange optimization, we offer a ready-made integration with Pay for 3D secure validation, which packs on additional savings on consumer cards and protects against fraud. One of the exciting updates that we recently added to the gateway is the ability to accept donor advised funds. So that is going to be for merchants that are taking donations. It would allow customers to utilize the account that they have set up with either pledger or donor, and the merchant would then sign up for an account with either or both of those sites as well. That can now be configured on the processor tab, and that allows them to accept those payments, especially through the hosted payment pages, at an easy click of a button for their customer, which I'll show you here once we move into the gateway. Let me go ahead and bring up my screen here. So one of the things that I really want to hit on with the gateway is the amount of customization that you have available to configure the account where it is customized for an individual merchant. Now, from being merchant facing for so many years, merchants are very picky about the terminology that's utilized, the different options that they have. They like seeing things a certain way that aligns with the way that they run with their daily business. The gateway really does offer you 20 additional custom fields that can be named whatever you'd like them to be named. They can be set to require, and then those fields can be applied either to the virtual terminal transactions or in the hosted payment page. They can also be set onto the receipt, and the merchant has the ability from here to rename any column on their receipt. So for example, if they wanted to change surcharge to align with them calling it technology fee or convenience fee, that is an easy switch for them to do in here. Along the same line of the customization and the surcharge, we do offer multiple different surcharge options. There is compliant surcharge available with TSYS boarded accounts. We hope to add Fiserv here in the near future. What that does is it allows the merchant to register with the card brands, and it'll submit that surcharge in a compliant manner that caps out at 3%. It only applies to credit transactions, and then it separates that surcharge within their settlement. So it's able to be passed to the processor in a compliant manner. In addition to compliant surcharge, we also offer non-compliant surcharge or a service fee model. That's where they would have the ability to set any percentage or dollar amount for any payment type. So it does apply broken out between credit, debit, and ACH. With that option, they can apply it to any type of transaction. It does send over to the processor in a lump sum, so it is shown as a full amount. And also, they have the ability to set that option within their gateway instead of the back end by going to Control Panel, User Management, and then into Transaction Settings. From here, they can set the option for surcharge to be displayed, and they can type in a default, either dollar amount or percentage. And if this is set, then on the virtual terminal, they would have the option to either change the percentage or dollar amount. They can remove it completely per transaction or apply it however they see fit. That setting is also available to alter for checks or for terminal transactions if terminals are configured on the account as well. The third option is a newer feature that we rolled out recently for dual pricing, and that is available currently only on invoices. So whenever the merchant is configuring an invoice, they are still going to see a surcharge listed here, but on the invoice that goes to the customer will only actually see this line that does not say surcharge. And this is the wording of it is going to vary a bit based off of the configuration on the back end of the account, but it will only show the pricing according to where they would like the surcharge to be applied. Going back into the control panel and hitting on some of the customization features, merchants also have the ability to set their batch with the columns that they would like to appear. The batches themselves can be closed out automatically up to 3 times a day, or the merchant has the ability to do so manually from the batches tab. But based on this configuration, it's going to automatically send them an email each day with those columns already intact. On top of this, within the reporting tab, they have the ability to search based off of any field within the gateway. So they can really customize their reporting as well. And we'll go back into that here in a little bit. You may have noticed by now that there is a digital wallet setting that's been added to the control panel. We did roll out Google Pay a little while ago, and most recently we rolled out Apple Pay. So Apple Pay is currently only available for TSYS boarded accounts. Fiserv hopefully will be added here in the near future. There's not anything that you need to do from an account setup. Digital wallets are automatically configured. The only reason that they would need to utilize this digital wallet settings is if your merchant is configuring digital wallets under an API. The other options that are in here are the ability to turn off either Google Pay or Apple Pay or both, and that would disable it from showing on their invoices or their payment page. Going back into invoices, there are also a lot of settings that can be configured for invoices. The merchant has the ability to customize with their logo, their different payment information as far as business details at the top of the invoice. They can utilize an invoice number that will automatically increment as they're created, and they can set what they would like to be required. So whenever the customer goes to input their card details, do they want to require either the MVS or the AVS zip code to be a set field for them? They can label how they would like surcharge to appear if it is set with either non-compliant surcharge. And then they have default surcharge terms that can be applied from the screen as well. They can also set up different reminders as far as notification for before the due date, after the due date, automatic emails that'll go out to that customer to let them know that that invoice is sitting ready and waiting. The default due date gives different options that are presets, or they have the ability to set a custom amount. And then they can also set terms and customize the email that the invoice is sent out in. If we go into invoices, our invoice system, it does allow for products to be added into a catalog. And this actually has some inventory tracking capabilities as well. So if they were to add a new product, the only mandatory fields for this are product name and product price. But they do have the ability to unselect unlimited, and they can put a quantity in here. From this, then they would be able to run a report within here to export. And that is going to show the different quantities that are on hand at any given time. As long as it is filled out properly on the invoices, they could utilize that to process reorders. When creating an invoice, they can pull from their customer list, ones that are already on file, or type in new customer information. The billing and shipping information is currently merchant entered only. And then from the line item portion here, they have the ability to pull from that catalog, or they can type in the description manually and then fill the rest of the information out. And we just opened this up as well to where they would be able to just type a dollar amount. And that would suffice for that field as well. Once they save, the eyeball icon from the invoices tab gives additional menu options. And one of the new items that we listed is the ability to copy a link to the invoice. And what this does is that it allows the merchant other means of sending this invoice out. So if they don't want to use the text or email option right from the gateway, they can put it into a custom email. They would be able to utilize that link through an API integration as well. It is returned in the transaction response. And that is going to allow them to integrate with different products as well. Instead of having an integration send an email out to receive the link, they can now do so right from the response. Some of the other options in here are if the customer were to call instead of paying through the link of the invoice itself, the merchant actually has the ability to input the payment details as well. And they can also mark this as cash. So that would suffice the invoices being paid. As far as the digital wallets on invoices, it is going to have Google Pay for any processor. Apple Pay will only appear, again, if it is a TSYS-boarded account, and then if it is opened on an Apple device. So if they open it from their iPhone, an iPad, it'll automatically show the Apple icon here for them to utilize that wallet. Let's take a look at the process transaction tab. So the process transaction tab is the virtual terminal. There's several different ways that it can be utilized. The first tab offers you the ability to accept payments on a credit card. And this can utilize either the customer on file information, or they can, again, just type the information for the customer out if it's a new customer. Let me pull one from the list here. So what I wanted to show you is with the customers on file, if they have multiple test cards listed, or excuse me, not test cards, credit cards listed within their wallet in the customer record, you can easily utilize this drop down to select which card you would like to bill against. Any of the information that is saved with that customer record will automatically populate. And essentially the merchant would only then have to enter the dollar amount as the required field, or anything else that they have set up on their own through the transaction settings. The custom fields that they have set up from the control panel would be listed here for them to enter. This one is required, so I'm gonna go ahead and enter something there. And then transaction details, these can either be set to be required or hidden, but they are listed automatically as optional fields here for the merchant, along with the billing and shipping information. And then here at the bottom, they have the ability to set up a recurring plan. So if we check the box, the merchant would then be able to name the recurring subscription. So let's call this rent. They can set their first run date at any time after today. So if they wanted to set it for tomorrow, they could absolutely do so. If they want to set for any time in the future, they can as well. And then they would set the frequency. The frequency can be changed along with the first run date or the actual run date of the transaction and the installments at any point in time. I'll show you how to do so here in a moment. So let's say I set this up as recurring. And this box, if it's checked, it would bill the first installment today. And then the next payment would be done on the first run date. Once we process the transaction, as long as that box was not checked to run it today, you're going to get a notice that a recurring plan was created. And then from the recurring tab, you would be able to click the eyeball icon to edit those details at any point in time. Under Control Panel and General Settings, the merchant has the ability to set how many times a recurring payment is retried if a failure is received. And they can also set the exact date, or excuse me, time that the payment is processed. Go back into recurring. And we were to have a transaction that attempted to process but failed. This will automatically try the number of times set. And if it's still not able to accept the payment, it'll follow into the next month. So let's say the merchant reaches out to that customer to let them know that their recurring failed, and they gave them a different card, but they told them they could resume on this card the following month. The merchant would be able to run a one-time transaction utilizing the Process Transaction tab, and then they could edit their plan to skip for that time period. So if they had installments listed here, they would be able to reduce it by one and then reset the next run date. Going into reporting, again with the eyeball icon, it does allow you to see additional details on the transaction. From here, merchants have the ability to send or print receipts. They can process refunds or avoid if it isn't on an open batch. They can recharge also on an open batch, depending on the MCC code for the account. There is the ability to adjust transactions. You would just want to make sure that the merchant has that ability. There are two other options that we'll show here for you if the customer is brand new and it was not selected to save them on file. You would have the ability to add an update or create a new customer record. By selecting that option, it would just automatically add a customer to the wallet. And then again, any information that's filled out in the wallet would easily be able to be pulled onto a transaction at a later time. From the Customers tab, you also have the ability to utilize all your actions where it'll autofill that information from here. So if your merchant wants to select the customer from the database and select charge, that'll automatically take them into the Process Transaction tab with everything filled out for them. They would just input their dollar amount. They also would have the ability to view any history for transactions that have been run, any invoices that are set up for that customer or recurring from here too. There is a customer upload in here. You would typically need the full card number. We did actually just make another update for this as well that would allow the merchant to create a GET request from the API, which will pull tokens if it's a customer that's already on file with saved card information. And in place of the card number on the customer upload, they can now utilize that token. So this is going to be utilized in cases where they're using a CSV file to upload transactions. Say they're doing recurring transactions through an API because the amounts changed. They would now be able to utilize that token, fill out the information for the CSV, and they could update that information through a batch upload. Also with recurring, we are actually getting ready to roll out card account updater. What that'll do is allow the cards on file to be updated automatically if the expiration date has changed. That is going to be coming about here in the next few months. September is our target for that, but we'll be sure to get you some additional information. Posted payment pages allows the merchant to create a simple payment form. We have made some changes to this lately as far as the information that can be inputted with the different fields. So if we come in here and we click new payment page, we're going to set a name for the page itself. It does need to be unique to the gateway just because that would be the identifier that would allow you to set fraud controls, and also within your control panel and source management, that name would be listed in here. So if you ever wanted to make any changes to the page, you would want to go off of the name that's created for it. The URL for the payment page, you're setting the slug for it. The first portion of it is hard-coded. And then you have 3 options for actions. You can either set the charge to do an authorization and capture all in one, a pre-authorization, or the save customer payment method. This one comes in handy if you have somebody on a recurring plan that does need to update information. They could utilize the payment page to send out to their customers to accept payment, or if they're coming over from another gateway and they don't want to do a transfer with our team, then they would be able to utilize a hosted payment page, send an email out to their customers, let them know that they're opening up a new point of sale system, and they can input their transaction details here. You do have the ability to set light or dark mode. You can see that changed the templates down here. And then the 2 templates are already made. You can customize them as you see fit from the overall there, or you can build one completely from scratch. So I'm going to go into the page editor here. Everything with payment pages in the blocks column is drag and drop. So if we want to add the ability to do recurring onto our payment page, we're just going to locate that in the list and drag and drop it onto the form. Now, the additions that we have added in here are the ability to set a drop down for amount. So let's say I'm utilizing this page to input ticket sales. I would be able to put what I want to display to the customer, and then the value that I want the page to calculate off of. This button here allows a custom amount to still be entered in from the customer, but that can be unchecked. And then that would only allow the information in the drop down to show. You can click the plus sign to add additional fields and set those as you see fit. Also, with recurring, you have the ability to set the display of the drop down for the customer on the number of times as well as the frequency. So if I wanted this payment page to only allow a one-time payment or ongoing, I can uncheck the number of times. And then for frequency, if I only wanted it to be monthly and yearly options, I can uncheck everything else. You are easily able to add the merchant's logo by also dragging and dropping the merchant logo box. That will then allow you to obtain a file from your records and drag that onto the form. And then everything in here is fully customizable. So if I want to change the font, I just go to where I want to change it from and then select from the preset list here. Colors can also be easily changed. the background as well. If I go under decorations, I can change that to however I see fit from there. There are certain fields on here that are going to be required, such as some of the credit card information and the powered by Pay Compass down here with the logo. And then if you set surcharge on the account, that is going to replace your amount field and replace it with amount, fee, and then total. The fee field would need to be selected and input the percentage or dollar amount of the surcharge that you would like to apply. And that's broken down by card or check. The other payment options, as far as the digital wallets and the donor advised funds, are available to add on but under field groups. You would just drag and drop these options onto the form and it'll create a button just like the credit card and check options where you can click between the two. You also have the ability to see the payment page from a different view. So if you want to see how it would look on a tablet or a cell phone, you can click here to preview that page. Moving into fraud controls, there are several different ways that fraud controls can be configured. And then there are certain modules that would need to be configured a certain way. So universal fraud controls allows you to set different modules from the list, either UBS information, CVV, email blocker. Those details can be set here. And then this would apply to every source within the gateway. So any transactions ran under virtual terminal, invoicing, unless selected, hosted payment pages, they would all fall under that role. We've given the ability to set this at a source level because sometimes there is the need to set different rules based on how that transaction is inputted. So for example, if you had 3DS enabled on the account, that would need to be only set on an invoice or a payment page level because it only applies to customer initiated transactions. If that were to be set under universal, that would cause issue with any transactions that were entered in by the merchant. To set it on a source level, all you would do is locate the name that you want to set it up on, and then add the module, and then select the options that you want to allow or block. And that's going to vary based on the actual module that you select. Looking at some of the filters in here. So one of the ones that I like to point out, especially for use on a hosted payment page, would be the velocity control. I highly recommend, if a merchant is going to be embedding the hosted payment page into their website, to set up fraud controls for that page to be pretty strict with what it allows. With the amount of fraud that across the board is experienced with credit card processing nowadays, the merchant really needs to take the steps to protect themselves, either by embedding that payment page behind some level of security on the site, like a login, if possible, and also setting up these fraud controls. The hosted payment pages do have automatically enabled with the hosted recapture capabilities on it. So that's going to block any bot testing. But if there were to be manual fraud on their account, they want to have something like this that triggers after an unexpected amount of transactions are entered. And if they set the option to disable the source key when the limit is reached, what that's going to do is, with the current settings here, if a fourth transaction was tried within a half an hour period, it would expect that to be unexpected activity for that payment page, and it would shut it down. The merchant would then receive an email notice letting them know that it was disabled. They could come into reporting, check over the transactions. If they deem it to be fraudulent, they can go through and void any transactions that did approve. If it is just normal transactions for them, they could easily go into control panel, source management, and locate their hosted payment page name, hit to edit the source, and just toggle it right back on. There's not any other kind of actions or anything that they need to take place as far as regenerating their keys or getting their developer involved to re-embed that website. It is a pretty easy switch for them to take over. While we're in the source information here, as sources are utilized to connect an API. And what that does, this could be utilized for any of the different integrations that we have. There's information that's used as far as an API key, tokenization key, or a PIN number to connect to that API. This is where they would come in to actually create those keys. So if you go to create source, there is a drop down to select which type of key they're wanting to create. If we let it on API, let's say the merchant's setting up with Biller Genie. They can name their source Biller Genie. They can set a PIN number of their choosing. If they're wanting to do check refunds, but it is recommended for credit card refunds. Allowed API would be if they wanted to lock it down to where only certain IP addresses could access this page. So let's say it's something that they built that's just going to be used in the business directly. They could put their IP addresses there to where it would not be able to be accessed from employees' homes. Email merchant from this screen, any email address that is submitted into this box is only going to receive receipts for this source. So as a default, the gateway does send email addresses to the address listed under general settings. If there's additional people that only need from this source, or if they wanted to turn off the ability to receive receipts for everything, they could put a dummy email address into the general settings and only put it onto the source that they would like to receive emails from. And then from there, they're going to set allow commands. So this is what they want to actually allow through that source. They would be able to check the boxes of anything that applies. Separate credit and check can be enabled separately. And then if they wanted to change any of the payment methods that are accepted through that source. So if they didn't want to accept Discover, they could uncheck the box. Once they save under source management, the key that they would utilize for the connection is going to be listed here. This would just be copied out and then put it into, say, Biller Genie or any other integration that they're currently working with. I believe we have pretty much gone over everything. Do you want to go ahead and open up for questions and we'll let it drive from there as far as where we go next?
Yes. So let's move over to the chat. There's a question that is asking, can you add a tip on an Apple Pay transaction?
No, not from the gateway. So Apple Pay would just be the dollar amount total from the source. So whether it's on an invoice or the hosted payment page, the total dollar amount would be all that would be charged. The only way that you can utilize tip with the gateway would be with a credit card terminal. With the credit card terminals, we did actually just roll out for standalone mode as well. So there's two ways that you can utilize the Equinox Lux units, and we support either the 6200M or 8500i. You can either go to the terminal tab that would be listed here once it was configured, and you would still have the ability to choose from a customer list or type in additional details such as those custom fields and other shipping billing information. Or with standalone mode from the terminal itself, you would select sale, type in a straight dollar amount. So there's no surcharge or anything available on that currently. And then once that's inputted, you would present the card. We are going to be adding in the ability in the near future to do cash discount on standalone terminals. So on the configuration file, we would put in a percentage for the cash discount, and then that would be subtracted from the overall total of cash equivalent is utilized. And then from standalone mode, we're going to be rolling out dual pricing soon. So it's going to have the option to actually select on the screen how the transaction is being made, whether it be debit, credit, and different surcharge amount would display the total pricing from there.
Adding on to that, this question came from the same individual. What verticals best fit with this?
So with the card present portion of it, we utilized the terminals more for still a lot of moto business, but if they had the occasional card present, the terminals could be utilized as a full source for card present transactions. Think of an office where they do have people come in, or even small part stores, anything along that line. They would still be able to process the payment with customer information for them. The standalone mode, with that addition, the distributors that we work with did set up to where they can utilize mobile devices as well. So with the terminals, you have the option to order either Ethernet, Wi-Fi, or mobile with carrier now. So essentially trade shows would be an option for them to run. It's where they wouldn't have to tie it back to a customer. They just want to bill the card a certain amount. With standalone mode, they can be utilized interchangeably. So they would still be able to initiate from the gateway if needed. But standalone mode only currently supports sale. In near future, we're going to be adding in the ability to do a void from the terminal, and also possibly the store and forward options. But right now, those other functions would still be done from the gateway. Merchant would be able to locate either under batches or reporting and process any additional transactions related to that sale.
Perfect, thank you. The next question is, does PayVault do reoccurring invoicing, not payments, invoicing?
No, not currently. So the only options on invoices that you have currently is to essentially take a deposit. What you can do is down here, there's the edit option for 100%. This could be changed to a percentage or a dollar amount to essentially require 2 payments against that invoice, but it does not allow for recurring to be set up. That is on our roadmap. I just do not have an ETA at the moment for it.
Perfect, thank you. Those are all the questions that are in the chat. If there's any other questions you guys might have, the floor is yours. Please feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question.
I was just getting ready to type. It's me, Albert. What side terminals does PayVault work with? I'm sorry if I missed this. I'm sorry.
That's fine. It's the Equinox Lux, either the 6200M or 8500I.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, 6200M
Okay.
or 8500I, Equinox Lux.
Next blocks. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. And while we're talking about it, with the process for setting up terminals, if you have somebody that is interested in terminals, let us know. I can send you out the guide to it, or I can share that regardless, so you can share it with the team. It's a pretty simple process. It would just be to purchase the terminal that you wish for that merchant setup from one of the distributors. And then you would obtain a VAR sheet. The VAR sheet is a little bit different than what the gateway requires. And those requirements are listed in the guide. Once you have the VAR sheet in hand, you would just email our support team and we'll configure the file for you. But we would need to know the serial number, the type of device, and any additional details that you'd like enabled on there. So if you wanted manual entry enabled on it, or the ability to prompt for AVS or CVV, standalone mode, debit, tips, anything along that line, you would just let us know so we can configure the file properly. Once that's set, we would return an email to you letting you know that it is ready to go. And there's just a couple quick steps that you would walk through on the terminal to pull in a download.
Perfect. A question that came in is QuickBooks integration.
So we actually offer 3 third-party integrations that have the ability to feed into QuickBooks. And we don't have a direct QuickBooks integration, but these third parties are able to automatically feed any invoice or details to QuickBooks. And that's either through Biller Genie, Hyphen, or Verosa. Essentially, what you would do is either set up an account with them as a reseller or from the merchant's account, and then they would handle the integration and next steps to get everything up and running. All your demos and all would be provided by whoever you choose to go with.
Thank you. Is there any further questions? A question just came in. Which program is the best?
I would say that all 3 have similar products, but all 3 also have different ways of displaying the invoices, different little caveats to the way that it utilizes QuickBooks. I would say most commonly we see either Biller Genie or Hyphen. Hyphen is one of our newer integrations, but it has definitely been coming up quite a bit lately.
Thank you. Any further questions? We still have 15 minutes left, so ask away. If not, we will go ahead and move over and conclude the meeting. All right, it sounds like no more further questions. So that concludes our second Toolbox Tuesday for the month of August. Thank you, Holly, for joining us today and providing more insight on the new features for our PayVault gateway. We appreciate your time and for giving us a presentation today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And thank you, everyone. A reminder mentioned at the beginning of the call, this call was recorded and will be uploaded to the YouTube channel. There will be a mass email that will go out to inform you the video is available for you to rewatch. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next week at Coffee with Closers. Take care.